He helped create jobs, not as a governor. Government doesn't create jobs. Private industry does, and he did that. He is a former two-term governor, and this man was known as Governor No. Let's give it up for Governor Gary Johnson.
I want you all to know that I would not be doing this right now if I didn't think that I could do a really good job as President of the United States. And I base that on my experience in life, and that starts with the fact that I've been an entrepreneur my entire life. Since I've been 17 years old, I've paid for everything that I've had in my life. When I was a junior in college, I started a one-man handyman business in Albuquerque, me, and actually grew that business to employ over 1,000 people. Electrical, mechanical, plumbing, pipe fitting, architects, engineers. It's amazing how successful you can be if you show up on time and just do what you say you'll do for people. I sold that business in 1999. Nobody lost their job, and it allows me to have a full-time, unpaid job running for President of the United States. A couple of takeaways being an entrepreneur. One of them is some advice that I'm going to give all of you this evening. It's worth exactly what you're paying for it, which is nothing. But my advice to all of you is that whatever it is that you're good at in your life, do it entrepreneurially. Be your own boss. The rewards are 100-fold. The impact that you have on others is much more dramatic. Again, advice I'm giving you that you're not asking for and worth exactly what you're paying for, which is nothing. One of the hardest things about being in business is hiring and firing. Hiring is really easy. Firing is really difficult. Mitt Romney said, "I love to fire people." I gotta tell you, I hate firing people. But if you can't fire people in the private sector, you're out of business. And in the public sector, it's really easy to not fire people. But if you don't do it, it just ends up being dysfunctional. And that's what we have right now. And that's what so exists in government, is because people that are in government have never hired and fired. I'm also an athlete. I've been an athlete my entire life. I have a goal to climb the highest mountain on each continent. I've had the good fortune to actually get to the top of Mount Everest. But here's the story on Everest, and here's a story that I think that I hope everybody can relate to. I broke my leg 2 months prior to going to Nepal. I mean, it was a full fracture of the tibia. And in a situation like that, which is a situation that all of us face all the time, which is nothing goes according to plan. Nothing. Expect that to be part of the plan. And when adversity presents itself, we all have choices when adversity presents itself. One of them is we just lay on the couch, feel victimized, and it's just not meant to be. The other is embrace it. Embrace it and recognize that there's always adversity, and those that make the most out of adversity are those that are successful. And that's what we need to recognize, and that's what we need to all do in our lives. Never run for political office prior to running for governor of New Mexico. I mean, I was completely outside of politics. Totally. I went and I introduced myself to the Republican Party of New Mexico, John Latuzio, the head of the Republican Party in New Mexico. And what he said was, after talking to him for about 30 minutes, he said, "Man, Gary, I like you. I like what you've done. We're an inclusive party. We're going to include you in all the meetups. You can go on the traveling road show to try and become the nominee of the Republican Party. We greet you with open arms, but you just need to know that you will never get elected. That it's not possible to come from completely outside of politics and get elected governor in a state that's 2-to-1 Democrat." Well, I got elected. And I would like to think it was based on what I had to say, which was simply, let's bring a common sense business approach to state government. Best product, best service, lowest price. Less government is better government. Keep government out of the bedroom. And don't allow government to make decisions for me that only I should be making. Now, how did that equate when it came to government? Well, this may be an embellishment, but I may have vetoed more legislation as governor of New Mexico than the other 49 governors in the country combined. I vetoed 750 bills. I had thousands of line item vetoes. I was an equal opportunity vetoer. A third of the legislature was Republicans. A third of the bills I vetoed were Republican. Only 2 of the bills were overturned. Only 2. So it made a difference when it came to billions of dollars worth of spending. It made a difference when it came to government telling you or I what we could or couldn't do in the bedroom. It made a difference when it came to government telling you or I decisions that only you and I should be making. Well, how did that all go over in a state that's 2-to-1 Democrat? I got re-elected by a bigger margin the second time than the first time. I just think it speaks volumes. I just think it speaks volumes to the fact that people really appreciate good stewardship of tax dollars. My favorite bill that I vetoed was the first legislative session. It was a Republican bill that, but for my signature, would have become law in New Mexico. It was a bill that required pet stores to exercise their dogs and cats. It was a bill that required pet stores to exercise their dogs and cats 2 hours a day, 3 times a week. Now I have to tell you, I think that's a great idea. That is a terrific business practice. This is where I would like to buy my dogs and cats. But as I said in my veto message, and I always wrote a veto message, I said, this is a terrific idea. This is the way business should conduct itself in the pet store area. But if I sign this legislation, the next thing I'm going to have to do is fund the dog and cat exercise police, and I don't want to do that. One poll and a couple of studies over the last year that I think are very significant. They did a poll on all of the presidential candidates and the favorabilities of the presidential candidates in his or her own home state. You know, there's only one presidential candidate in this cycle viewed favorably in his or her own state, and that's me. I really don't appreciate it, but the reality is, in New Mexico, people wave at me with all 5 fingers, not just one. And then they did a study on all the presidential candidates and what were their records when it came to job creation. Well, actually, I had the best record when it came to job creation, and my response to that was the same response that I gave as governor of New Mexico. I did not create one single job as governor of New Mexico. The private sector creates jobs, but I did control all the agencies. I appointed the heads of all the agencies, I hired them. I appointed the members of all the boards and commissions. I controlled all rules and regulations. And I have to tell you that there was certainty when it came to rules and regulations. Why have a rule, why have a regulation if all it's going to do is add time and money to our lives, but isn't going to make us any healthier, any more safe, not going to improve our lives in any way whatsoever? I stood up and I vetoed that kind of stuff. The ACLU last December came out with a report card on all the presidential candidates, and the report card was on civil liberties. This is something that I'm really proud of. ACLU, a group dedicated to civil liberties, a group dedicated to the Constitution, a group dedicated to the first 10 amendments of the Constitution, the Bill of Rights. 24 Liberty Torches was a perfect score. This is important. Mitt Romney and Rick Santorum had 0 Liberty Torches out of 24. Newt Gingrich had 4 Liberty Torches out of 24. President Obama had 16 Liberty Torches out of 24. Ron Paul had 18 Liberty Torches out of 24. And Gary Johnson had 21 Liberty Torches out of 24. So, the Libertarian Party, me running for President of the United States, I'm on the ballot in 48 states. I'm also on the ballot in the District of Columbia. I'm an official write-in candidate in Michigan. The only state where I am not on the ballot is Oklahoma. They should wear a necklace of shame for the fact that I believe for 4 election cycles there has not been a third party on the ticket. It doesn't have to do with citizens of Oklahoma, it has to do with elected officials in Oklahoma, and they should be ashamed for what they've done, but they've done that. So putting that into perspective, there are other third-party candidates running for President of the United States, but none of them come close to 50 state ballot, and I think a constitutional ticket, half of that. So when I talk about my opponents, I'm talking about Mitt Romney and Barack Obama, because we're the three that are on the ballot, in my case, with the exception of one state. So I'm the only candidate out of the three that does not want to bomb Iran. Stop with the military interventions. Stop. We're going to end up with another 100 million enemies to this country that we would not otherwise have. Do you know the largest demonstration in the world in support of the United States after 9/11 was in Iran, in Tehran, where over 1 million citizens showed up in support of the United States, and we're going to bomb Iran? Right now we have a trade embargo on Iran. As a result of that trade embargo, life in Iran right now is horrible. Inflation is running at 75%. Do the citizens of Iran blame their government for this? No. They blame the United States because of this. How about the notion of trade with Iran? How about actually opening up diplomacy as opposed to shooting first? I'm the only candidate running for president of the United States that wants to get out of Afghanistan tomorrow and bring the troops home. The root of all evil, politicians beating their chests in the name of elect me and re-elect me, and I'm going to save you from the illegal immigrant, I'm going to save you from drugs, I'm going to save you from poor health care, I'm going to save you from terrorism. And when it comes to saving you from terrorism, tens of thousands of innocent civilians die in these countries where we militarily intervene. Our men and service women are dying. Our men and service women are coming back with their limbs blown off, all in the name of politicians that don't have a clue as to why we are vilified worldwide, as opposed to the beacon on the hill, as opposed to the country that's always stood up to the bully, as opposed to being the bully. Fundamental to governing is the pledge that the President of the United States takes to govern under strict adherence to the United States Constitution. Military intervention would start with congressional approval, but let's not militarily intervene. We're going to attack when we're attacked, not the other way around. In the notion of strict adherence to the United States Constitution, I am the only candidate running for President of the United States that believes that marriage equality is a constitutionally guaranteed right. That it's on par with civil rights of the 60s. I'm the only candidate running for President of the United States that wants to end the drug wars now. Legalize marijuana now. We are at a tipping point on this issue. 50% of Americans now support legalizing marijuana. Why is the number so high? It's because we're talking about it. It's because people are recognizing that 90% of the drug problem is prohibition related, not use related. That's not to discount the problems with use and abuse, but that should be the focus. a few days, next Tuesday, Colorado will vote on whether or not they want to legalize marijuana in Colorado. Coloradans get it. 6 years ago, citizens of Denver voted to decriminalize marijuana on a campaign based on marijuana being safer than alcohol. Growing up in New Mexico as a neighbor to Colorado, I've always been struck by the fact that Colorado, on a per capita basis, has more marijuana smokers than any other state. And how is it going to work that Colorado is going to change the world by voting marijuana legal? When everybody in the country gets on an airplane to go to Denver for the weekend to chill out, that's how this is going to work out. How would it have worked if we would have had a president of the United States after 9/11 that had no aversion to vetoing legislation? I would have vetoed the Patriot Act. There would be no Department of Homeland Security, unbelievably redundant. There would be no TSA. I would leave airport security to the airlines, to the airports, to the states and the municipalities, but not the federal government. How would it have worked to have a president with no aversion to vetoing legislation when it came to the National Defense Authorization Act? I would have vetoed the National Defense Authorization Act. The National Defense Authorization Act, allowing for you and I as U.S. citizens to be arrested and detained without being charged. Isn't this why we fought wars in this country, is to prevent that from happening? I think this country is going to suffer a monetary collapse as a result of printing money, borrowing money to the tune of 43 cents out of every dollar that we're spending. The only way that we avert this, and it's not a fail-safe, but square one is balancing the federal budget now. So I'm the only candidate running for President of the United States that is promising to deliver a balanced budget to Congress in the year 2013. And that means taking on the entitlements. That means taking on Medicare, Medicaid, military spending. 2 weeks ago, we had a debate with Obama and Romney, and they're arguing over who's going to spend more money on Medicare, when Medicare is a system that you and I put $30,000 into, and we receive a $100,000 benefit. Whatever we put into Medicare, we're receiving 3 times the benefit as opposed to what we're paying in. This is absolutely unsustainable, and the raging debate and discussion that should go on in this country is over how we cut these programs by 43% and still provide a safety net for those, a healthcare safety net for those over 65 and those that are poor. But that's the discussion, that's the debate that's not taking place right now. The debate that's not taking place right now is cutting the military by 43%. Cutting the military by 43% takes us back to 2003 spending levels. And let me start with a premise. The premise is we need and defense, but defense is the operative word, not offense and not nation building. And then they talk about jobs and how to create jobs in this country. Well, here's how you make that happen. You eliminate income tax, you eliminate corporate tax, you abolish the IRS, and you replace all of it with one federal consumption tax. In this case, I'm embracing the fair tax. It ends up being cost neutral because you're going to bleed out all existing federal non-transparent tax out of goods and services. It's the answer when it comes to our exports, making our exports 23% more competitive. It's the answer when it comes to jobs. If in a zero corporate tax rate environment, the private sector doesn't create tens of millions of jobs, then nothing we do can create any jobs whatsoever. Manufacturing jobs will flock back to the United States given a zero corporate tax rate environment. We need strong U.S. dollar policy, not weak U.S. dollar policy. So I'm the only candidate running for president that would abolish the Federal Reserve if Congress would serve up that piece of legislation. And the Federal Reserve, what an inside game. Treasury prints money, they give it to the Federal Reserve. Federal Reserve gives the money to the banks at 0%. Do the banks give it to you or I? No. They buy up treasuries in a closed loop, making profits off of you and I without taking any risk whatsoever. How come this isn't a game that we can all take part in it? This is the tip of the spear when it comes to crony capitalism in the United States. Adopting the fair tax would issue pink slips to half of Washington lobbyists because half of Washington lobbyists are there to garner loopholes. Loopholes are for sale, both parties are selling them. Let's just get rid of the opportunity to do that. I'm the only candidate running for president of the United States that if given the opportunity, I would sign legislation that would take away legal tender laws and establish competing currencies where we might actually have commodity-based currency. Strong U.S. dollar as opposed to weak U.S. dollar. I ran 2 campaigns for governor where I did not mention my opponent in print, radio, or television. The point is, I did not run one single negative ad. Not even, here's my opponent. I think people are hungry to vote for a leader as opposed to the lesser of two evils. Listening to Obama's 82,000 negative ads last month against Romney, listening to Romney's 82,000 negative ads against Obama, the only reason I'm hearing that I should vote for Obama is that Romney is horrible. The only reason I'm hearing that I should vote for Romney is that Obama is horrible. Is that the real reason that we want to vote for somebody? Don't we want to vote for somebody that's going to get up and doggedly pursue agendas that they run on and talk about and should be in office to actually implement? So, verbal criticism of President Obama. You know what? Nothing that comes out of his mouth do I disagree with. I liken him to playing a violin. All the words are terrific. It's just that the words don't match up with say those things, and he continues to say those things. I did believe him when it came to war. I thought that our military interventions would be scaled way back, but he is as militaristic a president as we have ever had. Military interventions right now are at an absolute high. We are bankrolling the Syrian insurgents, and a quarter of the Syrian insurgents are jihadists. Did we not learn anything in Afghanistan? Nothing in Afghanistan? When it came to marriage equality, when it came to gay rights, I really thought that he was going to advance the ball. But when he talks about marriage equality and the fact that it should be a states' rights issue, where 42 states have said that marriage is between a man and a woman, effectively he's saying he is not going to address that issue at all. Adopt the fair tax, half the issues surrounding marriage equality go away, because half the issues surrounding marriage have to do with the tax code in this country. And then President Obama, when it came to the drug war, I thought that he said some very favorable things. But you know what? He promised that he would not crack down on medical marijuana. He scoffed. He scoffed. He said that, where states have implemented medical marijuana facilities, where legislatures, where citizens have voted to implement these facilities, I'm not going to spend any federal money cracking down on that. That would be a waste. Well, he's cracking down on facilities, he's shutting down facilities in California and in Colorado, and he promised that he wouldn't do that, and he's done that. Mitt Romney during the second Republican debate said it's a no-brainer that we should build a fence across the border. As a border state, that is a crazy notion to build a fence across the border. You're listening to someone right now who doesn't have one molecule of brain, me, based on Mitt Romney's statement. When it comes to immigration, we should make it as easy as possible for somebody that wants to come into this country and work to get a work visa. I'm not talking about a green card, I'm not talking about citizenship, but a work visa. Let's create a moving line for people that want to come into this country and work to work. And a work visa should entail a background check and a social security card so that applicable taxes would get paid. If we adopt the fair tax, taxes will not be an issue, because whether you're illegal, legal, a visitor to the United States, or a United States citizen, nobody is going to be able to avoid paying one federal consumption tax. Adopt the fair tax, eliminate corporate tax. We're going to need millions of workers in this country for jobs that will be American entrepreneurs that are going to need that labor from abroad. And let's all keep in mind also that we are all immigrants, that we are a nation of immigrants, and that immigration is a good thing. Mitt Romney is a smart guy, but with a straight face he says, we need to balance the federal budget, but we need to hold Medicare intact, and we need to increase spending for the military. It doesn't add up. I'm going to hopefully make a safe statement here that everybody here has graduated from the second grade and the mathematical equivalence that went along with getting through the second grade, and it just doesn't add up. And this is supposed to be a smart guy. Look, this country is facing really incredible, tough decisions, tough policy choices that have to be made if we're going to survive as a country. And it's going to involve mutual sacrifice on the part of all of us, but nobody talks about this at all. They both got their heads in the sand, I guess believing that Santa Claus, the Easter Bunny, and the Tooth Fairy need to take control of this ourselves, and it is something we can do. How many of you hear all the time, wasting your vote? Well, wasting your vote is voting for somebody that you don't believe in. That's wasting your vote. Vote for the person you believe in. That's how we change things in this country. And I want to make a pitch to all of you. And that pitch is to go out and kind of shake your neighbors, take them by the collar, your friends, family, co-workers. Ask them to take a look at Gary Johnson, that there's still time here. I would ask you to make the pitch to them that they're the ones wasting the vote, that nothing is going to change if Obama or Romney are elected. That either one of them, if either one of them are elected, we're going to find ourselves with a heightened police state. We're going to find ourselves in a continued state of war. Military interventions are going to get just as bad, if not even worse. And we're going to find ourselves spending money in ways that are unsustainable, that ultimately are going to lead to a monetary collapse unless we actually take control of this. So ask, when confronted with wasting your vote, your friends and neighbors who advocate voting for either Obama or Romney, they're the ones wasting their vote. This is a game changer election just from the standpoint of the Libertarian Party potentially getting 5% of the national vote. It's a game changer. It's generalizing it. It means no more issues with ballot access. It means no more time and money having to be spent in ways that right now take up a whole lot of time and a whole lot of money. It also means federal matching funds, which really also is a game changer when it comes to actually getting the message out. In my second campaign for governor, spent $3 million in that campaign, and that was in 1998. In this campaign right now, we have spent $2 million relative to Obama and Romney spending $2 billion. That's 1/1000th of what they are spending, and I guarantee you on Tuesday, when it comes to bang for the buck, here's where the bang for the buck is going to lie when it comes to vote. So thank you to all of you for being the activists that you are. And the pledge and the pitch here is, we have a chance really to change the world, to set the stage for a change in American politics. Let's end the two-party system. It's a possibility that genuinely exists, but we got to get out and do it. And I thank you very, very much for being a part of this. Thank you.
Thank you guys very much for coming. We're going to be hanging out here all night, so please stick around, all right? Thank you so much for coming.
Street.